Life is a battle of up and downs. Sometimes we win, sometimes we lose, sometimes we feel great, and other times we feel the opposite. For me, I wasn't really feeling too good, which is why I decided to make this video. And we'll get to the title later on. So about a month ago, I moved from Maryland to Georgia because I felt it was time for a new coat of paint. I felt that I had outgrown everything that I could do, be, and have in the state of Maryland. And I wanted to go into an environment that was, number one, warm, and number two, fruitful with different opportunities, people for me to engage with, and a new life for me to live. Less than 30 days after me moving to Georgia, I copped a nice whip, I got the new crib, I'm making good money, I'm healthy, I'm happy, you name it, I got everything. And for some odd reason, I felt empty. I felt down almost. I was thinking about it and I had no answers for myself. Why did I feel so unsure about where to go next? I've been on this roll. I've been collecting W's like it's my business. And all of a sudden I just feel stumped. And I'm pretty sure if you're watching this video, you've had that feeling before. You've been in a season of constant winning, constant W's. And then all of a sudden, you just hit your head on that ceiling and you look around wondering where the hell you should go next. Life is this emotional roller coaster that we have to find a way to strap in and flow with. Learning to flow with the ups and downs of life is a skill, and it's a skill that can only be learned through practice. No amount of advice can teach you to flow with life. And that's why I titled the video the way that I did, because you got to believe more in yourself. Believing in yourself means that you accept life as it comes. It means that you know that there are going to be ups and downs, but at the end of the day, you can rely on yourself to carry out whatever it is that you're set to do. That is how to flow through life. And I find it funny because growing up, I used to look at people, whether it was online or in person or celebrities, that would have this supreme confidence, and I would feel like they had something that I didn't have. And it wasn't until I was in my mid-20s, I'm in my late 20s now, so let's just call it the late 20s. It wasn't until recently that I realized, nah, it's not that they have this supreme confidence. It's just that they know they can rely on and trust themselves to weather a storm. And that essentially is what this video is about. I speak about not taking advice from the perspective that everyone is out here trying to figure it out. No one knows the answers. If you don't know the answer for yourself, then no one else is going to know the answer for you. Now, obviously, there are certain cases where you can ask for advice or for guidance from people that have done what it is that you're trying to do. So let's take an example. Maybe you want to become an entrepreneur and you want to escape the 9-to-5 trap and you want to own your own time and location, right? Maybe speaking to someone that's living that kind of lifestyle would be a good idea. But ultimately, they're still not able to tell you how to do it. They can tell you what they did, and ultimately, it is always going to be your job to mold your life to yourself because there's only one of you, right? With that being said, you got to be willing to go through the roller coaster. And that brings us to this graph right here. It brings me back to my school days. This graph is known as the emotional cycle of change. And it's a 5-step model that explains the emotions that we go through whenever we set a goal for ourselves, whenever we want something of worth. Now, step number 1 is uninformed optimism. This is when we have the seed of an idea planted in our head that we want to become an entrepreneur and we want to make all this money and we want to retire our family and travel the world. This is uninformed optimism, which leads us right into step number 2. Maybe we've taken the first step and we've created a business name and we've started working out a business plan. And we realize that it's not as pretty as it looks on the outside. And there's actual work that needs to go in to accomplish the goal. Now we're hit with informed pessimism, where we understand that, holy shit, this is going to be tough. I'm going to hit some highs, I'm going to hit some lows. And because this is worth it to you, your lows are going to be really, really low. Now, a lot of people stop at step number 2 because they're not willing to stand in the fire for long enough to see what happens when you make it to the other side. A lot of us get burned and we step out of the fire and we're just in this comfortable ass car ride to death. We want to be comfortable all our lives until we're no longer here. And unfortunately, that's not the way this thing works. We need to be willing to go through step number 3, which is the valley of despair. Now, the valley of despair is the lowest of lows. It is when you have tried something time and time again and it's not working for you and you don't know how you're going to make it out. And when you're in this valley of despair, you have a choice. And it's a pretty simple choice. The choice is you're either going to continue riding this roller coaster until you make it to the other side, or you're going to get off and you're going to start back at step number 1. And you're going to hit that uninformed optimism about the next shiny thing that comes your way. And then once you make it to step number 3, repeat the cycle over and over again for the rest of your life. Now, the good thing about this is there's a lot more comfort involved than there is discomfort. Because, I mean, shit. If you're stopping at step number 3, I'm pretty sure you're not going to be in the valley of despair long because you want to feel good. All of us want to feel good. We want to feel informed optimism. We want to build out a plan for ourselves and we want to see exactly how to get to where we want to be. And we want to stick it through. We want to be able to adapt to ever-changing conditions and we don't want to let ourselves down. At the end of the day, it's all about not letting yourself down. It's about being proud of yourself. We're all in this thing called life for a feeling. And it's funny because it doesn't matter what the goal is. The goal comes with the feeling, whether it's superiority or leadership or confidence, whatever that feeling is, we want the feeling that the goal is going to prescribe to us. And we get the feeling as long as we're sticking to the script and we're moving in a way that we can be proud of ourselves. And that's what happens when you get to informed optimism. You have validated yourself and you know, all right, I got this fucking plan. I know that I'm going to crash and burn maybe 10 times along the way, but I'm not going nowhere. I'm not budging. I'm in this motherfucker for the long run. And this informed optimism will ultimately lead you to step number 5, which is fulfillment. And fulfillment is what we all strive to achieve. We want to become fulfilled because we have accomplished a goal for ourselves. And the great thing about this cycle is that once we hit that state of fulfillment, we get to start that motherfucker over again. And this can be, in business, this can be in our personal life, our spiritual life. It doesn't matter. It's all a cycle. Okay, so now we understand this emotional cycle of change and we know exactly what to expect. We're basically going to get crapped on until we win, right? So how do we round this thing up? Well, I got 3 steps that will prevent you from having to take advice, so to speak, and give your power away. And they're quite simple. You're probably going to be mad at me that this long drawn out video has these 3 steps that you already know the answer to. But nonetheless, here they are. So step number 1 is to learn. Always be a student in life. Understand that you will never have all the answers. It doesn't matter how smart you get. It doesn't matter how much experience you get. You always want to remain a student to life. The longer you remain a student to life, the longer your brain is able to receive a message, receive information, right? You can learn through reading books. You can learn through social media. You can learn from asking other people, which let's put an asterisk next to this one because you don't want to ask someone for advice if they're not qualified to give it. You don't go to the dentist to get your blood work drawn. You feel me? Make sure that you're asking the right people if you ever have to ask anyone. Step number 2 is to implement. So you've gotten some knowledge, and let's backtrack really fast before we talk about implementing. Understand that when you learn, you don't have to learn a lot. There's this phrase called analysis by paralysis, or paralysis by analysis, one of those two, where basically you overdo your education and all you want to do is learn because it makes you feel good. You feel like accomplished, actually. It's ironic. You feel so accomplished from learning and you don't take any action. So you're not really moving towards achieving or accomplishing what you want to achieve or accomplish. So make sure that everything that you learn, you're implementing. If you learn something in a book, right? Implement it the day of. Do not let time go by. The longer the time frame in between learning and implementing, the less likely you will be successful, all right? And this is just things that I've learned throughout my years. So take it how you would like, but make sure you're taking action quickly, right? Back to implementing. Once you have learned a little bit, take some action. Don't take action without a plan. Make sure that you at least have a mental idea of what you're doing, why you're doing it, and what the desired outcome is going to be. And that leads us into step number 3. Step number 3 is to repeat steps number 1 and 2. So let's say that you were successful. You wanted to learn how to build a website. You looked up a Wix tutorial on YouTube. You implemented it and you made your website. Awesome. That's great. So next thing you want to do is you want to launch it. So you go back to the drawing board and you learn again how to launch it, and then you implement. And maybe you hit a snag and you're not able to accomplish it, or you don't know how to do it. Now you go back to step number 1 and you learn once again and you implement again. Remain a student of life. And remember this, I got this quote from John Canary. I was watching the Born Rich seminar on YouTube, actually. He said, there's a season to reap and there's a season to sow. Reaping is when we reap all the benefits of our hard work. Sowing is when we're planting the seeds, hoping for them to grow into seeds of success. He said there's a season to reap, there's a season to sow, but you don't do both in the same season. So don't get discouraged if you don't get things done immediately or things are taking longer than you expected. It's a part of life. And remember the 3 steps: learn, implement, and repeat. And ultimately, you're going to be rewarded way more than you ever could have imagined. But you just got to stay down, man. Stay down. Don't let life get you down. And you win. You're already winning.